Hello everyone, my name is Brian, and welcome back to Barb's Basement. So this month, for my one phone call to the outside world, I've decided to call the YouTuber Net Alliance. I don't know why I didn't use that one phone call to phone the police and let them know that a middle-aged woman is holding me captive in her basement, forcing me to read Star Wars comics, but whatever. I wanted to speak to Net Alliance about his fandom, what made him want to start up his own channel, and just whatever popped up. He makes videos spanning from what-if fanfictions, movie reviews, to even fact videos about Star Wars characters. I hope you all enjoy this little dive into the nerd realm. If you enjoy having Net Alliance on the podcast, make sure you let us know below and subscribe to see our past and future videos. One of the things that I've been the most interested in talking to other YouTubers about, like Star Wars YouTubers, is what began your Star Wars journey? Like, what got you into Star Wars from the start?
Okay, so what started my journey? So when I was very young, I think I was on vacation with my family, and we were at a hotel. Everyone was sleeping, and I was just like almost about to pass out, and I was flipping through the channels, and all of a sudden, there is this these big red electric doors, right? And I'm like, what is this? There's a man standing there who looks like the devil, horns out of his head, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got a double-bladed laser sword. I'm like, what is this? And I see another guy with a green lightsaber, long hair, and they're fighting. Eventually, the long-haired guy gets stabbed, and I'm like, oh no, what is this? And eventually, I eventually discovered this was Star Wars. So that was my very first experience with Star Wars. Was just the ending of Episode 1 on TV, back when we still had the little box TVs. That was my first experience, and then eventually, I became friends with a friend of mine named Brandon. And he actually told me, like, oh, that was Episode 1, and the guy with the green lightsaber was Obi-Wan, the guy with the blue lightsaber is Qui-Gon. So, to me, I was always playing as the green lightsaber guy, because I thought he was the coolest, and I called him Obi-Wan, and he called him Qui-Gon. Eventually, like, a couple years later, we found out that the names were actually switched. So, yeah, it's just one of those funny things as a kid. Now, we're talking, like, I might have been, like, in second grade at the time. Yeah. So I can be forgiven for that, you know. And so we would do that, and eventually, as time went on, I was a pretty big fan of Star Wars. I liked it a lot, but I was also a massive fan of, like, Lord of the Rings. Still am. Still one of the best trilogies in my opinion, but that just might be my opinion.
Three of the best movies that have ever been put to film. Dude. Like, and the best, like...
Real quick tangent here. People complain about the Return of the King and how it's too long. I want it longer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's long enough. That's just my opinion, though. Yeah.
I mean, it's like probably one of the best executed, like, beginning, middle, and end stories of all time. It's so good.
It might be my favorite movie of all time.
Like, honestly. We don't deserve a trilogy that good.
Yeah, it's so good. It really is. And people always say, well, you're a Star Wars YouTuber. How are you going to pick another trilogy over Star Wars? And I'm like, have you watched it? Like, you have to watch it. Even the extended editions, like, I occasionally will I'll pop into someone and they'll be like, hey, I haven't actually seen Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, dude, we can't be friends. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, those movies are made with so much love, like, for the source material. And
I know.
Like, I mean, like, there's, like, two dudes, like, making chainmail armor for like, the first movie for, it's like, amazing. A year. Like, so much love and attention and detail went into those that it's, like, impossible to beat at this point.
And here's the thing. The Hobbit, it's okay if you like The Hobbit. If you hate The Hobbit, it's whatever. But I ran into someone, and they said that they preferred The Hobbit over The Lord of the Rings.
That is insane.
I know. And I actually wanted to get up and leave the dinner table. I think I was actually on a double date, and it was this my friend's new girlfriend or something like that. But I was just like, I don't like you. So I told him that they couldn't date anymore. So he promptly
ended that relationship.
Yeah, and then that was that, because it was all my decision, not his. But
exactly. I mean, like, I don't think I've ever even seen the third Hobbit movie. Like, I went and saw the second one in theaters, and I remember leaving. I went with a group of people. I went with a group of people, and I stood up, and, like, when the movie ended, and I was like, I don't need to see any more of this. Like, that was enough. Like,
the third is very forgettable, in my opinion.
I mean, like, the fact that people forget, like, that they happened.
Yeah, like, they do. Insane. They do. I did like the Desolation to Smog a little bit. I'm not gonna lie about that. I did like that one. There were elements that was really pretty cool, but then the third one just lost me.
I mean, as we were talking about before, since, like, I work in video production, like, watching the scenes, like, cut from, like an amazing like red camera to a GoPro inside of a barrel when they're going like down there. I was like, what is this? What is this movie? And like if you watch the behind the scenes, I think it's for the second one. Fucking what's the director's name? Peter Jackson. There's a moment where he's sitting like in all this rubble, like in Smaug's like chambers, and he just says to the crew, we need to take a few months because I don't know what to do. Because,
okay, I have seen that, yes.
Yeah, because they wanted to make 3 movies out of like a 220-page book. So
yeah, that was a bad decision to do.
Yeah.
When they first announced they were going to turn it to 2 movies, I was like, maybe we can make that happen.
Maybe.
But when they said 3, I was like, you guys are just grasping at straws here.
And I was excited for Guillermo del Toro to direct it, and then that just slowly tapered off.
Yeah. And then they're like, Peter, can you please come in here? We'll pay extra. And he's like, okay.
please save this. But yeah, so we went off on a tangent.
Yeah, that was a good tangent though. We got to talk about Lord of the Rings maybe another day with the new series coming out. We'll have to probably talk about.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Anyways, back to what. Okay, so I liked Star Wars at the point, but then it was when Revenge of the Sith came out in movie theaters, like back 2005. I just turned 11, and my gosh, that blew my mind. Like that was an event to go to that. That was the final piece of the puzzle, and I had seen the movies before that, but Revenge of the Sith is what made me fall in love. I'm not even lying here. I grew my hair out long to look like Anakin. I wanted my arm to get cut off so I could have a robotic one. I'm not kidding.
So many people grew up with like just the original trilogy. And so the first movies I ever saw in theaters that I can remember was the original trilogy, going to see that in theaters. Not because I was born in 1970, but because they re-released
Okay,
them.
I got you.
So like going to see the prequels in theaters as like an 8-year-old kid, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And so like there's so many fans who, it's crazy like how much like appreciation has come for the prequels since they came out. And like hearing from you, like another kid like who was like in the prime, they're the prime demographic for that.
Exactly.
Like I remember going to see Revenge of the Sith like clearer than I remember like the first 2 people I dated.
You're right. Yeah, dude. I love Revenge of the Sith, and like still to this day, it's still my favorite movie out of all the Star Wars movies. I do know that some of the movies, like original trilogy, of course, we got Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, even to a point. Like those movies, quality-wise, they're superior. But I just personally feel Revenge of the Sith is the best Star Wars movie yet. So far. There might be one eventually in the future, but for right now, in my personal opinion, it just has so much. There's just so much going on, but it never stops moving. Like it's constantly keeping you on the edge of your seat, pretty much the whole film, and it's great. I love it. Might just be my opinion. People might disagree with me, and that's okay. But that's how.
Well, what I think, like, why I think that I enjoy the prequels, like how I enjoy them, and why I think that other people enjoy them, this is like my theory, my working theory on why people like the prequels these days.
Okay.
Is because it's not so much just about like the singular characters of the film. Qui-Gon's amazing. Like Ewan McGregor kills in those movies. Like he's one of the best actors in those. But what I think draws people to those films is the world building of it, like the world building of the galaxy and of Coruscant and the Republic and all that stuff. Like that's what interested me more in that era of Star Wars was. I'm seeing like the Clone Wars. Like the Clone Wars was just like a throwaway line in Episode 4, and a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, why are they making this this whole trilogy based off of this throwaway line?" But like how I viewed it was like, "Oh my!" They're like, "This is like the downfall of what was once like a mighty government," and like that was interesting to me, like in and of itself.
Yeah. I'd always liked the idea of, it was kind of like humans versus droids too. It was more science fiction feeling than the Star Wars space fantasy we got with the original trilogy. So a lot of people don't like that part, but I think it's one of those things where like you don't have to view it as that if you don't want to, like with the best example was midichlorians. Oh, sorry about the train in the background. Like I mentioned earlier about a train a mile away.
Oh yeah, you're good.
Hopefully it's not too loud. I'm trying to talk louder than it, so I can't hear it. But with midichlorians, that was a big point of contention with a lot of people because it added like a more scientific part to explaining the Force. But the way I see it is, we all have different perspectives on different situations. One person could look at a storm that wrecked their village and go, oh, the reason for that was because of, hot and cold winds hit each other, whatever, and there's a storm, but
yeah,
someone who is not knowledge in that form of looking at things the scientific way, they could view it and go, oh, the gods spite us because we didn't sacrifice a goat, so that's, of course that's being pretty vague, but from that, it's all about perspective, and I think it's okay. I think that, yes, it's a little weird, and I do understand that people might be mad because of, they turn the Force into more of a scientific explanation compared to just being magic. But I'd see it as magic. They say that magic is, science is just magic but explained.
Yeah.
Something like that. That saying is something like that. But I think it's one of those examples. That's what the prequels kind of did. They kind of explained the Force a little bit more, but that made sense to me because the Force is more existent in the prequel compared to the original trilogy.
The Force is like amplified by like 10.
Yeah,
in the prequels, as opposed to Obi-Wan fighting Darth Vader and then just like hitting two sticks together. It's like much more. People are being able to jump up like a 20-story building. But that's like cool to you as a kid because it's like they're space wizards that are also like superheroes, and I've never understood what people don't like about that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think it's one of the things where it's like they look at it and they go, well, it completely. I heard the argument before that like the original trilogy's lightsaber fights are better because there's more emotion behind them, and I'd say I understand the argument, but like. These are also Jedi in their prime,
Exactly.
The OT you got, yes, you got Vader, of course, and at one time when he had all his limbs, he was Anakin Skywalker and he kicked butt with a lightsaber, you know what I mean? And he's still pretty powerful with a lightsaber, but his cybernetics and stuff, they do kind of slow him down, they hinder him. You only see old men and young, untrained space wizards. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get your full Force Jedi like Mace Windu. You're getting your prime Anakin Skywalker. You're not getting your Obi-Wan prime. And I think that's a cool thing to show the changing of the Force and how the Force has kind of died off with the Jedi. They've become weaker in a way.
And it's interesting to see because like I've always been of the opinion that in the prequels, the Jedi are written to be dogmatic and political, and like they've lost their way. Like from the first film, like I remember when I first saw Episode 1, I was just thinking to myself, why are they being so mean to Anakin? Like what did he do wrong? And I feel like that through line is kind of lost throughout the the prequel trilogy, but it's evident like even from the final scene where Mace Windu in Episode 3 where he's telling Anakin, we're going to do like an extrajudicial killing here. Like we have made the decision as the Jedi that this is what's best for everybody else.
Yeah.
And like they're very dogmatic. They have a political edge to them. And I think that's like more of like what George was going for because there are political overtones in the prequel trilogy that like George is clearly trying to hit on for like the time period that they were made. And I feel like people kind of forget that. People forget that there is a message of
just because they're the good guys doesn't mean they always make the the right decision in a way, but that's how real life is kind
of. So with that being said, I'm hearing that you really enjoyed the prequels. So what is your favorite era of Star Wars, like in terms of like the timeline?
Okay. So are we talking canon Star Wars? Are we talking anything?
We're talking either or canon or what I would call Disney canon or Star Wars.
Okay, so if we're talking canon, like Disney canon, then Clone Wars, definitely, in my opinion. Now, if we're talking Legends, the Old Republic is amazing. So that's, for me, this is also kind of like a point where people don't always agree with me either, is like the Legends after the Return of the Jedi was always a little bit confusing. for me. That's because I wasn't a massive reader either. So that's a lot of books. You know what I mean?
It's a ton of books.
Besides the Star Wars Legacy comic books that I read like years ago, and I still love them. I still have them. I gotta probably reread them recently. I actually saw that you do a lot of videos on them.
So, hands down my favorite.
I've never seen anyone else really talk about those, so that's really cool. So yeah, keep on doing that. But I haven't actually read them in a while. But I remember them being so good and thinking this could be a TV show. They should just adapt this or something, make this into something. Because in a way, it does kind of feel a little bit like, or I should say, like the presence that it shows kind of feels like what the Mandalorian kind of does. Like showing the. It doesn't just show like the clean good guys and the dark bad guys, which it does show both sides, but it also shows like the guys who are supposed to be the good guys who are also kind of corrupt. It shows the space pirates that are evil, but also some of them have hearts of gold. I think that's pretty cool to see in Star Wars that and actually be able to bring it out in a cool way that makes you want to keep on reading. And I think that's what Star Wars Legacy did really well. Was that?
I mean, like I think that what I enjoy so much about Star Wars Legacy is that it's just so different from everything else that was made.
Yeah, I agree.
Post Return of the Jedi, and it's interesting to see a Skywalker, because I mean, like the Skywalkers are always complicated. Like they're either good or they're really bad.
It is insanely complicated,
and it's interesting to see Cade, who's just like, I just don't want to be bothered by it.
Yeah, he doesn't want the legacy, and I guess I understand that. Imagine being a Skywalker, and the pressure that probably comes with that.
There's like so much weight on your shoulders for like who you're supposed to be.
And he's a druggie. He does death sticks and stuff, and
which is kind of funny to me because I just love that line. You don't want to sell me death sticks, so it's kind of funny to me that he does death sticks.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's cool to see like that part, but when it comes to like the legends, with Luke and stuff, and there's just so much extra stuff. I like it, but it does get a little complicated. But when we're talking about Old Republic, I played the games. I played KOTOR back when I was, like 12? I forget when that came out. 2001? No. I'd be younger than that. I'd be like 7 or something. And then I played KOTOR 2. I played, and then SWTOR. I played a crap out of. I played a lot of the Old Republic type of games, and I think that's what really drove me to it was the fact that it felt like so fresh. But it was still very reminiscent of the Star Wars we know, but it was in an era where you don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's one of the biggest hindrances to the Clone Wars, at least the TV show. Well, the TV show was fun to watch, and it gets better as the seasons go on, in my opinion. What's going to happen. So it would be amazing. And this is something that I mentioned in a video I did like about a month ago or whatever, but it'd be so cool if, I don't know if you heard, but Disney is doing, like on Disney Plus, they're doing Marvel What Ifs, if you heard about that, which is pretty much taking like the Marvel movies and asking like, oh, what if Captain America killed Thanos in, Avengers?
Or what if Marvel Zombies?
Yeah. But they're doing it for a TV show. So they're going to show like, I guess it's like 30 minutes short films or something like that. I don't know how it's going to be done.
What I think they're doing is they're doing like animated TV. Like they're going to be doing like... Okay. That's what I think they're doing.
So that would make sense because that'd be a lot of work to get the actors back in and doing all that stuff. So it probably is animated for that part. But it would be cool to see Star Wars do something like that. I would love to see what if, Anakin didn't turn to the dark side. What if, even better, what if Palpatine, the guy who was controlling both sides, suddenly died?
Man, that'd be outright chaos.
Yeah, it would be. It would eventually. It would just go right to there would be no puppet master. I'd say controlling both sides. Both sides would now be their own leaders and be actually having to fight a real battle and not have to have. It'd be a real war. It wouldn't be like one guy kind of making sure that neither side gets the better of the other one.
A guy playing chess with himself.
Yeah, they'd actually have to put in the work. It'd be cool to explore like what would happen from there. Dooku, if he would still be alive.
What if the CIS actually won and they had to actually form an actual government?
Yeah, so that'd be cool to do. I mean, even if you were to just do one standard storyline where Palpatine dies, and we would keep it, Jedi versus Sith. Dooku would now be the leader of the CIS, and maybe we'll make I guess Bail Organa, because he's the name everyone knows. We'll make him the leader of the Republic or something like that. And of course,
My man Jimmy Schmitz.
And yeah, and like that would be cool. I think that would be a really cool show. And then it would be like, okay, there is no storyline we have to meet now. We don't have to get to the original trilogy. That means we can tell any story we want. We can kill off anyone we want. I just think that would be so interesting to kind of explore the idea of being able to do that. And in a way, Star Wars did kind of introduce that concept when they did in Rebels. I don't know if you've seen Rebels, but
I've seen like sporadic. I haven't watched it all the way through. Like
yeah,
my nephew, he's 5, so I try to get him to like watch Star Wars stuff. And it's like a
I
little bit above his pay grade, so he doesn't quite get it.
I
So I've
understand.
seen like the entire first season. Then I watched all the Thrawn stuff.
Okay, yeah. So Ezra, he finds out how to go like time travel. So and he kind of like breaks the timelines, and in a way, he makes an alternate timeline. So it would be possible to introduce the idea of an alternate timeline in Star Wars, and you could actually do that.
I mean, I would because I always really enjoyed those Star Wars Infinities. I don't feel like they did enough with them. Those were like the what if stories in the old Star Wars canon. Like they
Oh
did.
yeah. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
I don't feel like they did enough with them. But
Well, the thing about the Clone Wars is like, oh, here's this character we see in Revenge of the Sith. Here's this other character we see in Revenge of the Sith. They're about to fight. We know they both are going to live. So where is the tension in this fight? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like when Grievous meets Kenobi, they both are going to fight again in Return of the Jedi, or not Return of the, in Revenge of the Sith. Why is there there's no conflict really? You know, I mean, sure, the fight might be fun to watch, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything because it doesn't have to do with we really know both these characters are going to make it. So it'd be interesting to do a show with these great characters we know and love, but introduce the idea that hey, anyone could die at any
something
time.
very bad could happen here.
Yeah, and I think that'd just be cool to do.
I mean, with
I'd
that
be
being
okay.
said, like I think that because I did see the episode where Obi-Wan and Maul meet again, that was like super emotional for me for some reason. I don't know why. It was like super cathartic, like to see
that fight.
to see Obi-Wan. So like he's clearly lost everything. Like
Yeah.
he's got nothing left, and Maul shows up like still with like that hatred and like vitriol like deep down for him. When Obi-Wan's basically like, dude, what are you mad about? Like we
Yeah.
both lost, and the fight scene between Ahsoka and Maul at the end of season 7.
Yeah, that was a
Man.
good fight. Yeah.
That was like transported me directly back to my childhood.
And the thing about that is, it would have been. I feel like that fight would have been so much better if we didn't have Rebels, because I know both those characters survived.
yeah, exactly. I would definitely agree with that.
It was, and like events have to now happen in that show to lead up to the Rebels situation. And I don't hate Rebels. A lot of people like dislike Rebels, but it does kind of hinder this last season of Clone Wars because of that reason.
I mean, it's just a bummer that like Disney didn't want to immediately keep it going with the Clone Wars. Like they wanted to like we're gonna make our own thing. And
Yeah.
I mean,
It is
I'm
very-
personally in the camp that Dave Filoni is like the second coming of George Lucas. I think that I feel like he gets it. Like I feel like he really understands Star
If you
Wars.
watch like documentaries and stuff with him, like he loves it. Like he's not just there for the paycheck. You know what I mean? Like he actually cares about what he's working on. Recently, you know what? This is kind of off topic, but recently there was a writer or someone who's part of the being in charge of Star Wars who mentioned
The
about
story group or whatever.
I believe so, but someone said about like how people weren't happy with Disney's story group or whatever, and he's like, well, you know, these aren't real characters. This isn't a real universe. You don't have to, you don't have to complain about this because it's fake. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? Are you that dumb? You
It's like then why are you writing Star Wars at that point?
get off there. Hire me. I'll take this. I'll take your spot. No problem. Honestly, and I'm just like, you cannot be in charge of a storyline, especially something like Star Wars that millions and millions of people love, and talk like that about it. Like you have to care. If you don't care, get out of there. I can't believe that. To say
Like,
that, it's one
especially
thing
like
to think-
in a creative field, like you have to like
Yeah.
love what you do. Like you have to like love the source material that you're making, because it's like if you're just showing up to work to punch a time card and like to leave, it's like what's the point of being there?
I know, and it's frustrating, and like because Kennedy's role, she's just rough.
Yeah, like that's a
I'm
whole
not gonna
bag
get
of worms.
into that because that's people. I can't say anything that other people have already said because everyone's already said everything about it. I want to believe that she can write the ship, and it seems like she's sort of getting there with the Mandalorian, so hopefully we'll figure it out. I just kind of feel like, I mean, the sequel trilogy is a whole nother conversation there too, but it's just mismanaged, and that's the thing. Like the sequel trilogy, I don't hate. A lot of people hate it. There are things that I don't like. There are things I do like. I think it's fine. It's okay. I just feel like there were a lot of missed opportunities when it came to sequel trilogy. I mean,
Yeah.
just writing the story without actually having a plan, that bothers me. You know what I mean? The prequels in the original trilogy, even the original trilogy, the first one was made and George was like still writing the second and third. You know what I mean? Like he had ideas, but he didn't really know. But he had like an idea at least of doing,
Something.
Yes, he had an idea of where it was going. Prequels, he of course had that relatively outlined. He knew he wanted to do that, and then there was his own sequel trilogy or whatever. But then Disney came in, they made Episode 7. They said, "JJ, make Episode 7 for us, and we'll just kind of figure out the next part." And it's like, no. You should have hired one writer, or not one writer, but at least a team of writers that you have, hired them to actually write out the full 3-movie story. Of course, have the directors put their insight or their little whatever they want to put into the saying at least, but make sure the story feels cohesive. And it doesn't. And that's what bothers me the most about the sequel trilogy. It feels like
super disjointed.
It feels like 2 people wrote the story. It feels like one person wrote part 1, the second person came in, wrote a second part 1, and then the person came in, tried to write a part 3 while retconning the other person's part 1. And it's just rough. And
the way that I think of like Episode 9 without everyone's seen it at this point, so there's no point in not spoiling it, but
you're good.
So the way that I view Episode 9 is an overcorrection by Disney.
Yes.
That's like everyone has like said this to death, but it really feels like they just made something that they think would like appeal to people. And I was one of the people that read every single spoiler for Episode 9. Like at that point I just didn't care. With Episode 8, like I feel like there are things that I liked in it, but there was just too much that I disliked in it to enjoy it. And so when all the spoilers started coming out for Episode 9, I was like, screw it, I'll just read it, whatever. And so like I read all the spoilers for it, and then I went and saw it with a group of my other Barb's Basement captives. And my friend Ben loves Episode 8. He thinks it's the best Star Wars movie. And I just looked over at him, and I had more fun watching him react to all the things that I knew were going to happen than I did watching the movie. And there were points where his jaw was literally just like agape. And he was just like, I cannot believe this is happening. And I remember reading the spoilers and like seeing like all these misdirects like on deaths. And I was like, you're jamming in like 10 years of Marvel movies, like fake death scenes in one movie. There's like no stakes here. And I would have rather, honestly, I hate to admit this to myself or anybody else, but I would have rather have seen Colin Trevorrow's Episode 9, because at least it would have built off of Episode 8. Episode 9, like, just ignored everything. And I can enjoy it for what it is. Like, I can enjoy that Rey is a Palpatine or whatever, and Luke is in death the ultimate Jedi or whatever. But it doesn't feel satisfying to watch.
Yeah.
And I've only ever seen Episode 8 and 9 once in theaters each. And then I have like clicked through all of them, through the 2 of them, like after the fact.
Yeah, The Last Jedi, actually, when I walked out of Last Jedi, I actually said to myself, you know what? That was pretty decent. I gave it an 8 out of 10. Mm-hmm. And then as time went on, I started thinking more about it. And I said to myself, you know what? Cinematography speaking, I think The Last Jedi is the best looking Star Wars movie.
Oh, for sure.
All of them.
For sure. Like, it's like incredible. Rian Johnson's like one of the best working directors today, which I know is controversial to say to Star Wars fans, but
like cinematography wise, yes.
It's incredible. It's beautiful. Definitely. It's a beautiful movie.
But the story, it is just a mess. And it's just like I actually did a full review on this thing. It just feels like, here's the thing. I think that if The Last Jedi was its own standalone film with its own characters, own plot that was not Episode 8, I think this movie would actually be beloved by a lot of people.
Oh, for sure.
The issue was it introduced these characters and events that the last couple movies had shown, like Luke, Leia, and then of course the new crew we got in The Force Awakens, and it changed so many different things story wise that it made people mad, and I understand why. Now I'm not gonna get super angry about it because I'm not one of those hardcore Star Wars fans, but it's one of those things where like it feels like a slap in the face to the fans. I mean, even like the first 20 minutes, Luke throws his lightsaber. He throws this lightsaber that represents Star Wars to so many fans. It was Luke's lightsaber. It was Anakin's lightsaber.
It's Excalibur. It's like Star Wars is Excalibur.
It's like King Arthur getting Excalibur and throwing it like it's nothing. And that's just not the right way to do that. That was the wrong way to handle that situation. And it's one of those things where like I just don't know what he was thinking. I wonder if he filmed two different ways and then he was like, I want people. I think part of it. Okay, so this is another part though. Sorry, I keep going back and forth. It's just
you're fine.
About the sequel trilogy, it gets you riled up a little bit. But
when you
watch The Force Awakens, a big complaint about it was too safe, and I agree with that. It was very safe. It was very trying to feed off the nostalgia of A New Hope and the original trilogy. I don't really think you can really contend against that. I think that Ryan wanted to make something that was going to not be safe at all. So instead of keeping the story more cohesive and telling a story that was more interesting and more Star Wars-like, I guess you could say, he tried to do the exact opposite. So every time they introduced something cool that was going to be interesting or something, he cuts it right down right off the bat. Every single time.
Yep.
It's like, oh, here's your lightsaber again, Luke. Oh, it's been cool to see maybe Luke reminiscent about. Oh no, he's gonna throw it. Oh, he's not gonna ask how she got that. Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. I mean, that sucks, but I'm sure this won't happen every time. And then every other time, oh, cool, Snoke. Oh, he's dead. Well, I was waiting for that since The Force Awakens to see what's gonna happen, but that's fine. At least Luke's still alive. And then you get
just
to
like
the end.
Doing the opposite of like what everyone expects is not good writing.
100%. Here's the thing. It's called subverting expectations. I'm sure you heard that term.
It's like it was the most thrown around phrase during that time period.
Yes, subverting expectations can be done. If it's done well, it can be amazing. The issue is when you subvert expectations every time something cool can happen, you have now like lost the narrative edge on your story. I don't know. I think there's a part of me that feels like, and I feel like everyone could say this, but there's a part of me that feels like I might have been able to write it better.
Yeah.
But I think every fan can probably say that, so that's how I feel. I've been writing a lot of different like Star Wars what ifs out throughout the years, or Star Wars theories, Star Wars fan fictions. I've been writing that through since like
and that's definitely something that I want to touch on. But before we get to that,
yeah, you're good. Sorry,
I wanted to get your opinion about the purchase of Star Wars by Disney.
Okay.
So like you say that you're a big fan of like KOTOR and the Old Republic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I told you before, I sank so many hours of my life into SWTOR that like it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably spent close to like $300 on that game.
Yeah. I have 6 max level characters on that game.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Everyone else is at least over level 30. I had like all character slots filled and stuff. I played all the different missions. Each character had their own story. I played all their stories. I think I played up till Revan's Return. No. Yes. Shadow
and, like,
Revan?
the Revan stuff in there, like I'm not a fan of what they did to my boy.
Yeah.
Not a fan of it.
It was definitely rough the way they approached that. But anyways, I think that when they first announced they were going to be buying I said, yes, that means we're getting episode 7. Definitely. Like Star Wars is going to return, and this is a big deal. And I talked to some of my younger subscribers now who have grown up with the Clone Wars, and they don't realize like the Clone Wars wasn't always around. Like, I mean, the what happened, like the Clone Wars was around, of course, episode 2 to episode 3. And there was that animated series that was kind of put in between that. But, before 2008, when the Clone Wars started, like, we didn't have any extra information of the Clone Wars besides those animated ones, like I mentioned. But those were just like small little, snippets of the Clone Wars. There was this massive event called the Clone Wars that no one really knew what was going on and how things were the way they were. I remember thinking when episode 3 started and seeing Anakin with the scar, I remember thinking like, how'd he get that? And we didn't find out about that until like 3 years later when they produced a comic book explaining it. And it's just one of those things where like the younger viewers are like, well, how didn't you know that this happened? Because they explained this in the Clone Wars. How didn't you know that in episode 3? And I'd be like, Clone Wars did not exist when I was like a massive fan as a kid. When I would go outside with my find broken broom handles, tape them up like lightsabers, and me and my friends would battle. You know what I mean? Like
I was lucky enough that my parents bought me for my birthday like the Force FX lightsabers.
Oh, okay. Lucky.
Yeah, I was just fortunate enough that was a possibility.
And those you mean like the real Force FX ones, like the ones that were like $200, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Dude, you were.
They got broken immediately.
Such
a waste of money.
I actually remember I did get one. Like later on, it was like when I was like an 8th grade or something, because I thought it was a cool, not to fight with, of course, but I still have it actually. It's an Anakin one or Luke Skywalker, but it has an LED inside of it, right? So if you smack it too hard, the LED's broken. Like that's it.
Yep.
Right.
I have the Mace Windu. I used to have a Darth Vader one, which probably got broke. I had the Darth Vader one, Mace Windu, and Luke Skywalker. And
wow, you got a good ones.
So like the batteries like in them got like so corroded.
Oh yeah, those things were terrible for batteries. I remember that.
Yeah, like so like they're like I couldn't even turn them on now. I still have them, but like I wouldn't be able to turn them on.
I remember I used to have to pull the pack out.
Yep. Like you can unscrew the bottom and like pull the batteries out.
The battery would it would corrode, and you'd be like, dang it! And you just got the new batteries. Like, I'm gonna put these in here now, and I'll use this tomorrow. And then you come back tomorrow, and your batteries are exploded, and it's like, come on! I just bought.
I was trying to show my nephew like the wonders of a lightsaber, and I was like, shit, they're so corroded, they won't work. I mean, with the Clone Wars, all you really got for information was episode 2, which was the very beginning, and then episode 3, which was the tail end of it. There's so much that happened between those two things. And when Disney bought Star Wars, it was just like, well, now the Clone Wars show is over. But I felt like, you know what? I feel like I got enough information about it. I'm not too upset about it.
Yeah. The thing about the Clone Wars show was that came out when I was like in high school, and actually like it started when I was like middle school. And during my high school, so at that point, I was like, I was into girls by that point. And that's not to say that you can't like Star Wars and being a girl at the same time. But like at that point, like instead of being a Star Wars fan, I was trying to be like, I'm all cool. I was in that phase where like it wasn't cool to like be fun, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I was in that phase like, I don't like Star Wars. I want the ladies. So I like basketball, and I do like basketball, but I would like turn up my jock side of myself to try to get the girls, and eventually I got a girlfriend, and she's now my wife, of course, but before that,
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been together for 10 years. We actually started dating when I was 15.
Hell yeah, man. Good for you, dude.
It was actually SWOTOR. My buddy was like, I'm gonna get SWOTOR, bro, you should join. I'm like, I don't know, I know how. I played WoW, and at that point I was playing WoW. I'm like, WoW takes so much of my time already, dude. I don't know if I can do SWOTOR. He's like, yeah, you should play. I'm like, okay. So I jumped in, and within like 3 days, I was like level 35. And back in when that game first came out, it was a lot harder to get that, like to get levels. And like now it's like you get like 1 kill and boom, you're level 1. You know what I mean? Get 2 kills, you're level 2. And like that's how it is now. But back then it was so hard to do it, and the credits were like so much harder to get, and it was fun, but I understand it was rough. I mean, it wasn't like, vanilla WoW rough like that's rough, but it was like it was hard, and I got sucked in, and me and my friend, we would actually write our own little fan fictions about our characters from SWOTOR, and eventually I started making videos, and that's kind of where that led into it. So I guess though playing SWTOR is what kind of led to this my channel in a way. So that's a cool little tidbit I never thought about.
Yeah, I was gonna like ask you like what made you want to start making Star Wars YouTube videos?
So, with my channel, I mean, when my channel first started, it was supposed to be a collab channel, and NET stands for News, Entertainment, and Tech. So I wanted to do news, entertainment, and tech, pretty much cover all my bases. And eventually, I was watching Revenge of the Sith back in like 2015, and no, actually late 2016. I forget now, man. Time flies. And
Yeah, for real, man.
I was watching Revenge of the Sith, and I said, you know what? What if Mace Windu actually killed Palpatine? And so I came up with like this own story in my head, wrote it down, and I was like, this would be an interesting video. Let's see if people like it. And then people liked that video. And at the time, no one else was really doing Star Wars theories or Star Wars fan fictions or anything like that. So that kind of got me more noticed. And eventually, another Star Wars YouTuber named Star Wars Theory started doing the same stuff I was doing. And I guess he had better marketing or something. I don't know. But he flew ahead. He's got millions of subscribers now. And yeah, so and then I kind of took a break through the last 5 years. I took a break here and there when my daughter was born, of course, and it was a lot of like a mental toll on me, So I'm here now. I'm back to making videos. I kind of make whatever I want now, but it's usually Star Wars content because that's what I like to talk about, and that's what people want to hear me talk about. So
it's so easy to talk about Star Wars. It's so easy.
It's awesome. I mean, all you got to do is go up to someone and say, "Hey, you like Star Wars?" And if they say yes, you have a conversation. Like you can go from anywhere right there. Now, of course, they might be like, "Oh, I've seen only one." And it's like, "Oh, which one do you see?" And they're like, "I saw Last Jedi." And you're like, "Okay, bye." But, no, just kidding. But
the way that I always liken it to is, so a little bit of backstory on myself. I was never a professional skateboarder, but I was what was called Flow sponsored by like a couple different companies or whatever. So we get like free shoes, free boards or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And what I would always tell people is there's like a certain like kinship you have with other people who skateboard. So like no matter what your differences are, like no matter like whether or not you're, liberal, you're conservative, you're Christian, you're Muslim, no matter what you are, skateboarding, like you have like a familiarity there.
Yeah.
Like when you meet somebody else who skateboards, you're like, oh shit, man, you skate. Like, let's like what was your thoughts on like flip really sorry or whatever. And it's the same thing with Star Wars. Like if you meet somebody else who loves Star Wars, it's like all political conversation goes out the window. Like you don't have anything else to worry about. It's just you have something in common that you love that at one point in your life you were more than likely bullied for. So like that's like a certain like type of friendship and kinship that you have that people who are just like into sports maybe don't really have. And that's something that I talked about with Chad Larkin in my last podcast was this, it used to be so abnormal to be really into Lord of the Rings and into Star Wars, and now it's commonplace. It's commonplace to love the Avengers and to feel like, oh, I love Lord of the Rings. And maybe it's that, more people back then really did enjoy it, but they were just afraid to say they enjoyed it. And now it's more mainstream.
I agree.
But it definitely feels like fandom is now normalized, which is good and bad.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, a big part of that, I think, honestly comes to the people who are just more vocal on like YouTube, and well, not just YouTube, but like social media in general. Like, there's just
the zeitgeist in general.
Yeah, that comes with social media. I mean, back in 2010, you wouldn't hear people. I mean, 2010 is like 10 years ago, of course, but like that's still technically the beginning of the internet of what we know. YouTube was only made in 2008,
which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, it sounds insane to say that, right? But and they didn't actually start being able to monetize until 2011 or 2012. So like before, people were just making videos to make videos because it was a fun project. It wasn't a career yet. Or you just have to have like someone, paying you to, or someone would pay you to like be like, hey, here's a shout out to this person, blah blah. Like how we do now, of course. But now you have ads you can put on top of your videos too. So there's a lot of different like things that have changed because of the rise of social media, and I think that is part of it, is the fact that I guess you could say like the nerds or the geeks, the outcasts from in the past are now able to kind of flourish because everyone is now a geek and an outcast. In a way, I mean, I had friends back in high school who I was, I played sports, but I also liked to talk about Star Wars and like
Exactly. Yeah.
what you would describe as like geeky. I was a gamer and I had jock friends. I was friends with the cheerleaders. I dated a cheerleader back in high school. I also dated a girl who was really good at math and who was kind of socially awkward. It was like I was just nice to everyone, genuinely just like nice in my opinion anyways. I didn't try to be mean to anyone, but I think like people are starting to come out of their shells more because of the ability that we have to talk about what we want and not be afraid of being judged. So I think
Yeah,
that's cool.
and that's like where I think the only bad part of it comes in is that with the Disney purchase of Star Wars, it just feels like one company owns everything.
Yeah.
And that's like where I think the negative aspect of now we're monetizing fandom. Star Wars has always been profitable, but it was just one dude's thing. And now it's this giant conglomerate that owns all of the most popular things. And that's where I think the bad aspect comes in, because now that Star Wars and fandom is normalized, like, we're getting, for all of episode 8's faults, I would say that at least it was bold enough to try some new stuff, which is abnormal for Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that now we're going to get cookie cutter, by design, by board made films, which is what basically happened to Solo. Was, they were trying to make something,
you're right.
something different, and then they, Kathleen Kennedy steps in and is like, hey, no, we're making a Star Wars movie.
That's what happened. That's what happened. She fired him too.
And that's like where I think a lot of the problems come in with, like, now that Marvel is so popular, it's just that like nothing is unmonetizable.
Yeah.
And I kind of miss those days where the Star Wars fans were, geeks who just talked about Star Wars in their basement and watched the movies together over and over again and that kind of stuff.
You were right. Yes, I do miss those days too, in a way, because it was much more of a like tight knit type of social gathering, I guess.
100%, yeah.
And now that you can kind of like talk to anyone about anything around from anywhere, I guess it does kind of. It's good, but I understand. Like, yeah, it's kind of, it makes you miss those old days. I understand that.
I mean, gaming became very popular when I was in high school, as I'm sure it did for you. Everybody played Halo, everybody played Call of Duty, and when I was growing up, gaming was more of you were a weirdo if you enjoyed gaming and stuff like that. Not to say that I was like heavily bullied for being a geek or anything like that, but
yeah.
When I was in high school, I loved Star Wars. Like, it was one of my favorite things still, and I just did not talk to anybody about it outside of like two people. I wouldn't read the books in like a public setting. I think when like all the Darth Bane books came out, I read all of them. I read the first one in about 2 days. I read the second one in 2 days, and I read the third one in one sitting, like on Christmas Eve, because I was just so excited to get more Star Wars. Like, I just couldn't get enough of it. But I was completely unwilling to tell other people about it because it just seemed too nerdy. Like, it would scare people off. And I was afraid that, like, girls I was trying to talk to would be like, okay, you've been talking about Star Wars for like 35 minutes. Like, I'm done talking to you now. But so that's like kind of what I wanted to get your opinion on was, so after Disney bought Star Wars, I don't know how you felt about Legends. Like, you were saying that the post Return of the Jedi stuff seemed like muddled and like kind of confusing to you. So during the Legends run of Star Wars, what was your favorite thing outside of KOTOR? Like, was there any other aspect of Star Wars that you really dove into heavily?
Any other aspects that I really dove into? I guess like the Jedi are always a cool thing for me. I always consider myself more of like a gray Jedi, like Qui-Gon. He's actually my favorite character because of the way he I feel like the way that he views the Force is the correct way. Like he is a Jedi, but he doesn't let the Jedi's beliefs kind of mess with his own beliefs. And I think that's the reason why like he is beloved by a lot of people, not only because he's Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson's awesome, but also
Yeah,
because
Liam Neeson was awesome.
because Qui-Gon is just like overall just a solid character, at least in my opinion, of course.
No, I mean I fully agree. I think that Qui-Gon's the best aspect of the prequels, and it's a bummer that we only got one movie with him.
Yeah.
And I mean, Ewan McGregor and Obi-Wan, I would say, is like my close second. I know a lot of people really love Anakin, but I feel like the main character of the prequels has always been Obi-Wan for me for some reason. Like I've always viewed him as like the main character. And Hayden Christensen and Anakin Skywalker were kind of like, I always like my big complaint with those movies was always I feel like the focus isn't on one singular character. It's not like their story. It's the story of Anakin and Obi-Wan and Padme and this political intrigue that's happening in the background.
Yeah.
I would have probably rather had seen Obi-Wan's story with Anakin happening like ancillary in the background. And
Yeah, I got you. Make Obi-Wan like the actual sole main character instead of Anakin kind of transitioning into the main character.
Yeah, because like they're both like kind of pseudo.
Yeah.
They're both kind of pseudo the main characters, like in episode 2 and 3. Like they're both so heavily featured on screen that it's like, okay, like who's really the main character in this film, But,
yeah, I agree. Well, and that's my thought process. Sorry, that's my process too. My thought process. My gosh, Qui-Gon, he is the main character of episode 1. You know what I mean? And
100%.
So,
yeah.
So, and then Anakin transitions into, I guess, your episode 2 main protagonist, but it's really not really him. But it is, and it is weird to say that, because Obi-Wan is kind of like Anakin's older brother in a way, and Qui-Gon was like their father. So
exactly.
I do see that dynamic of where Anakin would always be kind of chasing after Anakin would always be kind of chasing after Obi-Wan in the figurative sense, or I should say Obi-Wan's chasing after Anakin because Anakin is rash and Anakin, and then
he's really Anakin about everything.
And Obi-Wan is kind of like the older brother Anakin somewhat strives to be, but also doesn't want to be. And there's like that slight competitiveness compared to if it was Qui-Gon teaching him, Anakin probably would have become much more of a peaceful person. So, and of course, Anakin might have not even became Darth Vader because of that reason. So
it's like that same thing that, geez, my brain's like starting to melt too. But Dave Filoni, the same there's like that really famous clip now where he was saying that the duel of fates, it's like the duel of what's going to happen to this child.
Yeah.
Like if he goes with Qui-Gon, he's going to grow into becoming like a Jedi Knight. And if he goes with Obi-Wan, or if like he's forced to go up to the council, he could become something way worse. And so like the duel of fates, like,
isn't just the name of who's going to win the lightsaber duel. It's actually
literally like what's going to happen to this child and to the Jedi Order and to the Republic overall.
The fate of the galaxy is
exactly
based on that. So that's actually pretty deep. Good job. I like that. You're actually out of the deeper meaning to that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend everybody watch the behind the scenes stuff for The Mandalorian, because there's a lot of because I was telling you before we got in the call.
I didn't go deeper into it, but yes.
Yeah, I was telling you before we started the podcast that I work in video production, and I'm just interested in any cinematographer's work in general. But I wanted to watch the behind the scenes stuff because I was like, okay, it's a round table. Kathleen Kennedy's there, Kevin Feige's there. Not Kevin Feige. Jeez, what's his name? The guy who directed the first Iron Man. On the tip of my tongue.
I know this name. Why?
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm just
Favreau?
gonna Google it. Yes.
I got it.
So it's like him, Dave Filoni, and then all the directors of the different episodes of The Mandalorian.
And they're all just sitting there talking. That's right. I didn't go further into that, but I got to that point where they started talking.
Including Taika Waititi, who is like my man crush. Like if I were to have I think that he's just like
okay. So here's
an amazing director.
Taika. I gotta give this to Taika. Okay. I actually really do enjoy Taika and his the way he approaches films. I do feel like sometimes his comedy does interfere with the dramatic tension of some scenes, though.
I would say like definitely for The Mandalorian, but like I prefer his comedy stuff.
Okay, I got you.
Over his so like I don't know if you've ever seen What We Do in the Shadows.
I have not. I have seen Thor Ragnarok though, and there's a lot of points where something serious kind of gets turned into a comedic point. And I think it's funny, but I do feel like maybe some points should be treated with a little more like
Drama.
dramatic. Yeah, more of a dramatic twist on stuff and keep it dramatic instead of doing the comedy thing.
For sure. I mean, I
That's
think
my
that all this
opinion,
stuff
of course.
like
I still like him. I still think he's a really solid director and really good. I just think that sometimes his comedic side does overtake a more climactic scene.
and he like in himself is a very funny person. Like he's one of the main characters in What We Do in the Shadows, and like Hunt for the Wilder People, one of my favorite movies. Like I personally do not like when dogs die in movies. I feel like it's a cop out. I feel like it's super lazy writing because you know that people care about dogs. So if a dog dies, they're gonna be upset about it. But in Hunt for the Wilder People, there's a lot of like really deep, like emotional, like abandonment issues, like that are covered and stuff like that. And Taika Waititi, I think he's just like a brilliant writer. Like he's just amazing, like in that sense. And so seeing like a roundtable discussion with him, you know, Jon Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, Dave Filoni, and all the other various directors of The Mandalorian, like seeing them talk about their episodes and like the themes of Star Wars is very, very interesting to me. And just seeing like how they make The Mandalorian, how it's like all filmed like in a warehouse with like these big giant projections,
so
which is like
crazy
insane. It's just crazy.
Yes, I agree.
And like that's what like fascinates me about like behind the scenes stuff is because like as like a director of photography, I like seeing how other people do that stuff. But I would recommend that everyone watch that just so you can truly see like Dave Filoni gets it. Like he understands Star Wars, even if it's not like Legends, which is the era of Star Wars that I prefer.
Yeah,
I think that he understands what Star Wars is supposed to be like fundamentally deep down.
Yes, I concur with you.
So we're hitting about an hour here. So is there any upcoming projects or anything that you're working on that you kind of want to tell people about? Like, what do you got going on?
Okay, so actually, right now, one of my biggest series that I mentioned about my fan fiction stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I took a break from fan fictions for the last 2 years actually, and I've been requested to continue one that I left on a big cliffhanger. I don't know if you've seen it, or maybe probably not. But what happens in it is it's kind of hard to really explain. But there's a previous video where I called "What If the Jedi Council Survived Order 66."
Oh, and yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
Okay, so you have seen that one. Yeah, so that one has 1 million some views or whatever. That one got massive. I made a sequel saga for those who wish to see the continuing the story, and eventually it's found out that Maul actually has control of the Death Star, and he uses it to destroy Coruscant while Padme is on Coruscant, and it's the story that I'm continuing is what happens after that. What happens if suddenly the galaxy's all fine, everything's good, and the Death Star would just take out Coruscant, the main capital? What would happen next with these characters? And that's kind of where I'm at now in the story. And I left it off on a cliffhanger for the last 2 years, and I had thousands of comments asking me to continue it, and I finally decided to continue it. I'm actually writing my own book, and I'm done with that one now. I'm done with my book, so now I'm changing my creative writing thought process and putting it into the net theories, which those are my Star Wars theories, my net theories, you know. So I'm continuing back up in this. I just released chapter 7, and chapter 8 is actually coming out on Saturday, and people seem to like it so far, so that's pretty cool. So I guess if anyone wants to check that out, if you haven't, and you just want to sit back, you know, there are visuals, so you can actually watch them. They're not like, you know, animations. Like I don't have like the whole thing like animated, but the visuals are there. If you want to watch them, you can watch them. If not, you can just turn it on in the background while you're driving to wherever you're going, or if you're just kind of doing some chores, you can have it play in the background. I have it written as it's like actually like a story. Like you could write it, or you could read it out of a book in a way. So you could actually sit back and enjoy the characters and you know, the different hardships they're going through. And I'm including like different type of fan servicey stuff, of course, but I'm also doing a different take on Star Wars, and it's a little more darker and more dramatic. And you know, what's Anakin gonna do when he finds out? You know, when he sees Padme die in front of his eyes. You know, It's like, where does he go from there? Because he, in the story previously, he comes back to the light, right? He doesn't go full Vader. He doesn't. The Jedi temple gets evacuated in time because Mace survives his fall. He goes back to Jedi temple, evacuates all the people. So Anakin technically never kills any Jedi, and he never really goes that full step. So he's able to come back to the light with Ahsoka and Obi-Wan's help. So that's kind of what. There's more dynamics to that, of course, but that's my current big project I'm working on YouTube, is doing that. But yeah, that's that.
Love it. Cannot wait to watch that. Seriously, like
Yeah,
I enjoy watching.
Checking it out. If just check out the first couple chapters. And it's not your thing. That's cool. If it is, you might like it.
I think that everyone's interested to a certain extent into what ifs in Star Wars in general. But
we always ask that question, especially right then and there. There's points where I watch Revenge of the Sith and I know what's going to happen, but there have been times, like, in my mind, I just think, like, what if Anakin doesn't turn? Like, I'm like, wait, I know he doesn't though. Why in my brain am I thinking he won't? Like, why? And it's weird that we have that, because I know he's going to, but, like, why do I have that point in my brain that thinks that he's not going to? It's just interesting.
100%. Like,
no other movie makes me do that, So
and yeah, that's like the whole thing is, like, there's Star Wars has a certain effect on people, and it sticks with people a certain way, and it affects everybody in a different way. And that's why I want to have these conversations with, like, YouTubers like yourself. Is everyone has, like, their own way of looking at Star Wars. Everyone has their own way of expressing their fandom, and yours is these what if stories, fan fiction, your breakdowns of episodes of Clone Wars, or, like, ranking Star Wars movies and stuff like that. Like, that's what I love about Star Wars. And like, as I was saying to you before we started the podcast, was I just think, like, in, like, these tumultuous times, Star Wars and fandom and just, like, community is what's gonna, like, bring us together in the end.
Yeah, I mean, that's it right there. It's true. Star Wars does bring people together. I mean, it tears people apart, but in a way, it brings people closer.
I mean, I feel like I can talk to, if anybody has a different opinion on me than me about Star Wars, at the end of the day, I'm still like, yo, we both still love Star Wars. One of my best friends loves Episode 8, and I don't care for it. I mean, I don't feel like I hate it, but I'm just like, ugh, no. Yeah. But, like, I feel like it's so fun to have that conversation, and I feel like a lot of Star Wars fans, or nerds in general, we've forgotten to have fun watching these films and talking about them. And
it's weird. People do forget that the reason why we watch movies is to be entertained.
Exactly.
Exactly. I've actually caught myself a couple times, especially with Last Jedi. Second time I went into it, going into it wanting to hate it, and then realizing, wait, like, I'm trying to be entertained. Like, for my reviews, I actually did reviews on all the movies, and I think I mentioned this earlier, but I did reviews on all the movies, and I actually went in with a clear head, and I'm just going to experience this. I'm going to find the entertainment level of this movie. Are the things that I don't like, are the things that I personally, might have hated about it? Yes. But I'm going to hit this. I'm going to see the pros. I'm going to see the cons, in my personal opinion, and give them, and try to make this review as, entertaining as possible to, and not only entertain the people watching my videos, but also to see, like, maybe I missed something in all my hate or my dislike, And honestly, it's just about changing your perspective about a lot of things, especially when it comes to Star Wars. Is if you can change your perspective, even just listen to another person's opinion who you disagree with, it might actually, even if you don't necessarily, it doesn't change your mind, you might be able to actually like something a little bit more because you allowed your brain, you put aside your dogmatic view, right? And you accepted another person's opinion, and you can kind of get more out of the story or the characters or whatever, but you didn't like before. So I don't know. That's what I try to do anyways.
Exactly. That's, like, the best way to go about it. But I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me during these crazy times.
Of course.
But I'm going to let you get back to your wife and your kid.
Yeah.
And enjoy your evening. But yeah, I look forward to talking with you again in the future. We for sure should get back together and maybe do a review of some episode of some nonsense or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. If people want to see me return on the channel, they should definitely leave comments below. Let us know.
Absolutely.
Subscribe.
100%.
Definitely.
100%. Thank you.
Make
For the shout out.
Yeah, make sure to hit that bell. I'm sure it helps.
I would not know.
Say it helps.
I think that liking stuff helps. So I just tell people
No one
hey,
knows,
like it.
Yeah, just do it anyways because
Yeah. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Now This Is Podcasting. Make sure that you go and check out Ned Alliance's channel and give him a sub. Easily one of the nicest guys I have ever met on YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and subscribe for future content. And on a different note here, make sure that you're staying safe in times like these. If anybody in the comments feels uneasy or uncertain about the times that we're living in, make sure that you reach out to someone that you love for support. I know that I personally feel very uneasy. Actually, while recording this podcast, there were riots happening outside of my apartment. And it's truly a scary moment to live in times like this. I was concerned for my fiance, I was concerned for my fellow friends who live downtown, I was concerned for my business, and if you're feeling scared or you're feeling worried about the future, let's just try and get our minds off of it. If you play Star Wars The Old Republic, drop your character name in the comments. And you know what? Let's play together. Let's get our minds off of this together. We're all in this fight for the future with one another. And we may not know each other, you may not have ever seen me in person. I hope that you're safe, and I hope that we can all get through this together. And until next time, I am Brian from Barb's Basement.